ball rolling. I know Tavleen has a whole column on this, but Tehseen, the fact is, I did my homework, and indeed, in the UPA years, based on the Ranganath Mishra report, there was talk of a Muslim quota in states like Andhra Pradesh when it was governed by the Congress. There was an announcement of a 5% Muslim quota. Now, this has become, for some reason, the BJP's key issue in this election. Do you think that Rahul Gandhi made a fatal error when he spoke about a Desh ka X-ray? Because you heard the Prime Minister punning on that. Do you think the Congress made a fatal error when they made comments like jitni abadi utna haq? Because that does suggest a kind of recalibration of the reservation policy.
Good evening, Barkha. Thank you for having me. Let's understand it's a very complex issue. So the answer can't be black or white. Did Rahul Gandhi ji make an error? No. Certainly, he could have articulated it much better. I give it to that, and that has been a problem in the Congress articulation. So let's go step by step. First of all, there has been talks of an inheritance tax and an estate tax put by the great mass leader Sam Pitroda, who I think if you friends like that, sometimes you don't really need enemies. And I joked about it very well. Sam to jaki hai, Mani Shankar abhi baki hai. So they always put the foot in the mouth and they get the Congress into trouble. But look, this inheritance tax and this estate tax, all of this was even debated by Arun Jaitley ji, a good friend of yours, of Tavleen, of Dilip out here. It was debated by Jayant Sinha ji. So governments will always debate these things. That's how it is. It does not mean it has to be implemented. But yes, Sam Pitroda did score a goal. There's no doubt about it. The Congress manifesto doesn't talk about it. It's not there. It's not going to happen. So then what is Rahul Gandhi talking about? Now, I read Tavleen's column. It was a very nice column. It does bring out fear about what the Congress is the Congress that's left. But that actually isn't quite true on what has been articulated in the manifesto and what has been said by people. What the Congress is promising is the following. And this is what Rahul Gandhi actually said. He said this quite decently. He said, look, we will do a caste census. We will understand where and which sections of society are extremely poor. And what we will then redistribute is government jobs and opportunity and government resources. He's very clear on this. Had I been Rahul Gandhi or had I been writing Rahul Gandhi's speeches, I would have then put the caste survey in Bihar showed that there are sections of Pandits, Brahmins, who are more backward than, say, Muslims or Dalits. They too must get opportunities. So this articulation hasn't happened, but that's what the caste survey in Bihar has shown. So that would have saved us from Tavleen's column, because Tavleen made a very valid point, because it does come in that way. So I think the articulation, but that's not in the Congress manifesto. Now to the third part that you're leading, and this is what I want to end with. It broke my heart to hear, and it's breaking my heart to see the Prime Minister double down on what is absolute fake news. And I realize this, that when somebody is absolutely weak, he doesn't have a strong point, he can't talk about what he did for 10 years. You double down, you speak a lot of things that are not true, you make up stuff, you talk about everything from Nehru to Aurangzeb to the past, to Salman Khurshid. Why aren't you talking about the 10 years of your government? Because I think he's in trouble. He realizes this, the first to face. It's not really the Congress, it's the people of India that are genuinely scared that if this government gets 400 seats again, the constitution will be scared. Barkha, believe you me, every single bureaucrat that I'm meeting, every single bureaucrat who's serving, they're scared that 400, the constitution will be saved. Every single, without exception. They may be favorable to the BJP. That fear is very real. That's why the Prime Minister's clarified this 2-3 times. And this doubling down of taking people's mangalsutras, giving it to Ghuspetiyas, the question should be asked to the Prime Minister simply this. If there are Ghuspetiyas after 10 years, why are you still Prime Minister? You should have stepped down. And Tavleen, do add this in your column sometime. That why is he talking about Ghuspetiyas if he's Prime Minister for 10 years? Secondly, you know when women's mangalsutras went, when daughters lost their fathers, when sons lost their mothers during COVID, where he forced people to pay on oxygen, on which he charged GST. I think he should be answerable for that. He should be answerable for what is happening with the heart attack pandemic in the country. Rather than answering those questions, the Prime Minister has chosen to divert attention because he has nothing to speak about of his 10 years. And that is the sign of a weak Prime Minister. But I do concede to the point the Congress needs to be better articulate. And I hope they take advice from Dilip at least.
Okay, let me bring in Tavleen. Tavleen, your columns have attracted a lot of attention. Tehseen says the Prime Minister is propagating fake news. At the heart of this whole debate is fake news. These are some of your columns. You met nobody in rural India who saw Modi as corrupt and autocratic. Rahul Gandhi is again tripling down on how this election is all about saving democracy. You say that doesn't have any resonance on the ground. You also spoke about the Congress's inheritance tax. But the point that Tehseen is making is that the Prime Minister is campaigning on something that the Congress manifesto doesn't say. The Congress communication may be muddled. Rahul Gandhi may be saying something off script, but effectively, the manifesto doesn't say what the Prime Minister says it's saying. Yet, he seems to mention it in every speech. Go ahead, Tavleen, do respond.
Look, on the Muslim quota, the way that he's making this Tushtikaran rubbish into an issue, it shames him. He should be careful about that. Because, we all know that the Congress uh, treated the Muslims as a vote bank. The Muslims are among the most backward communities in India. And if they're given a little bit of help, or if somebody says that, and Manmohan Singh actually did not say that they have first right. He said backward communities do. So, I think that he is absolutely wrong to do. In my column where I said that the people that I met didn't see him as autocratic and corrupt, what I meant was it wasn't an issue with them. The reason why they said they would be voting for the BJP was because he's delivered things that they never had before. That's the context in which I said that. I didn't see anyone who thought that autocracy or the constitution, or that I didn't meet. Maybe I met the wrong people, but I haven't met anyone. I've also met a lot of people who, like you in that village, say that they haven't delivered on basics. Right now, Tehseen, you need to ask the Congress party why 75 years after independence, we're still talking about roti, kapda, makan, pani. It's shameful. Now, Modi has not done enough in the past 10 years. He should have done a lot more. But, it shames us all as Indians that we're still talking about water. Do you know? I live actually, I have an Adivasi community in the village in which I live, and which is also in Maharashtra. I asked them, what do you want? And they said, water. The well is dry. They have to buy water from tankers. This is shameful. And they also, they said they didn't want to vote for Modi because they were hoping that at least in this past 10 years that would have happened. And, it'll go against him that it hasn't in some villages, but in many villages it has. There are pipes being laid in the villages that I've gone to. Roads are being broken in Uttar Pradesh, where I never expected any kind of development. And there are pipes being laid for water. There are schools that have really smartened up so much that, people don't feel the need for private schools in some of those villages. So, there has been welfare. And it's because of that. I was just trying to make the point that they didn't think that he was an autocrat in that way, that they didn't think of that as the issue in this election. What people have really are very conscious of is they want change. They call it Vikas. Basically, they want politicians to deliver on their promises.
Can I ask you, though, before I go to Dilip and Sugata, what do you make of Modi writing a letter to all the candidates saying this is not an ordinary election? It's intriguing. There's been a lot of discussion about the turnout, how in some of the Hindi heartland areas the turnout has been higher. The drop in turnout has been higher than the average drop. That the BJP is anxious. That's why it's pivoted to the Muslim issue again. Now you have praised Modi for some issues, but you're not a fan of his or the government's politics on Hindu-Muslim issues. When you see the Muslim quota being such a center stage issue, what do you say?
I think it's very wrong. I just said that already. I said that, for the prime minister to make that an issue, you're taking a community that has suffered terrible deprivation because they've been treated as a vote bank by the Congress party, a vote bank to which nothing has been delivered. The vast majority of Muslims have nothing. And so, the BJP should have used that to deliver to the Muslims, the benefits that they should have as a backward community. Sorry. So, I mean, but I think that the Prime Minister making an issue out of it shames him. The Prime Minister of India should not be talking like that.
War of narratives, Dilip. You're a master of this. Where do we stand? Let's look at something that happened just yesterday. That for some reason should have lasted longer in the headlines. Not for some reason, it should have absolutely lasted longer in the headlines than it has. And I'm talking about, of course, what happened with Prajwal Revanna, Devi Gaura's grandson. And I just want to play out for you what Priyanka Gandhi is saying, and then I'll get you to respond right away. Take a look.
मैं उनसे पूछना चाहती हूँ कि आज कर्नाटका में एक बहुत बड़ी बात निकली है कि उनके साथ जो मंच पे खड़े थे, जिनके लिए मोदी जी ने वोट मांगा, उन्होंने हजारों महिलाओं के साथ दुष्कर्म किया, हजारों महिलाओं के साथ। मैं पूछना चाहती हूँ मोदी जी क्या कहते हैं इसके बारे में, क्या कहते हैं हमारे प्रधानमंत्री इसके बारे में, हमारे गृह मंत्री क्या कहते हैं इसके बारे में। कुछ समय पहले 3 दिनों के लिए मैं अपनी बेटी से मिलने गई। प्रधानमंत्री जी, गृह मंत्री जी बोलने लगे कि प्रियंका गांधी विदेश में गई है। जहां मैं जाती हूं इनको पता चल जाता है, जहां विपक्ष के नेता जाते हैं इनको पता चल जाता है। लेकिन इस तरह का अपराधी, इस तरह का राक्षस इस देश को छोड़ के चले जाता है और इनको पता नहीं चलता। हम कैसे यकीन कर सकते हैं इस बात पर? सब चीज, हर जानकारी इनके पास जाती है। सब नेताओं पे ये ध्यान रखते हैं कौन कहां जा रहा है, क्या कर रहा है। और इतना बड़ा अपराध करके इनके नाक के सामने कोई देश से भाग गया और ये कुछ नहीं कह रहे हैं।
You're frozen, Barkha. Barkha, we can't hear you. Can you hear me? No, I think we should go on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Yes.
So let me ask you this, Dilip. Why is this not a bigger part of the narrative than everything else? In war of narratives, how is the Congress doing? How is the BJP doing?
I think in terms of narrative, if we look at just the most urgent and current W's, the W of women, water, which Tavleen mentioned, and worry, which the Prime Minister highlights in his letter. If you look at these three, I think the fact is that the current narrative as we go into phase 3 is one where there are question marks about multiple things that the BJP is either accused of or claiming credit for. So, the water question is not just a simple matter of women needing to go and get water. It actually completely discredits the idea that you have been able to give toilets in every village or every home. So it is at multiple levels that these things are resounding. But the Prajwal Revanna story is not anywhere near dead. I think the Prime Minister's worry letter is about trying to get Revanna off the headlines. I think the idea is that they want it to make, they want this letter to try and take the evening's headlines in a different direction. Deve Gowda's grandson escaping from India is definitely something that needs and will reverberate among the women of India wherever they are. It doesn't matter where they are. They're all going to sense that if 3,000 videos of women being raped are available, then the actual numbers involved will be far more. So you're really talking of huge numbers, and you're talking of a women's issue which will be front and central depending on any party's ability to raise it.
Sugata, then on the one hand, you have this very, very powerful issue of what's happened with women in Prajwal Revanna. On the other hand, you have the Prime Minister repeatedly hammering home, one, कि ये आपके एक घर का एक्सरे करा के आपकी संपत्ति ले जाएंगे, they'll take away your property. Two, that they're going to take away the quotas that exist and give it to Muslims, right? And this is a contestation of narratives. Of course, I should say that Revanna goes beyond narratives. I don't really care who supports which political party. I think we should judge it on its own issues. But since this program is about narratives and how, who's doing how, what do you make of Modi's letter?
Thank you, Barkha. See, it's Modi's letter. I mean, you've watched Modi campaign for 20 years, right? There is a certain sophistry that is always employed, and there is always that hard work which he tries to emphasize that he is putting in to sort of win over people. So it's part of that. I don't really attach a lot of importance to the letter, because the letter is again trying to tell that we are trying to communicate hard, work hard, and you don't have to drop your guard now. We are still in the third phase. So that's the usual communication that the BJP always does, and I don't see this as a kind of an exceptional letter or something like that. And when it comes to Modi's narrative, yes, there's a great deal of exaggeration. I mean, he tries to put things out of context. There is shameless communalism. All of that is true. But my question to the Congress party is, you've watched him campaign for 20 years. He has been in the political scene actively for 20 years. And what is it that you're doing for 20 years to counter a sophistry? You are always on the back foot. You are only fact checking him. You're only reacting to him. So then why? I mean, you are reacting, and how? You're reacting through a technocratic idiom always. You don't use the political idiom at all. And your technocratic idiom comes out, and your political idiom gets represented through people like Sam Petroda, through Jairam Ramesh. Look at the kind of tweets that go out, whatever Modi is culturally putting across to a large mass of people is getting converted through his language. He is trying to, the moment Congress does something, they immediately say, Dekho Modi ji ne ye kaha tha, and look at what the Congress is saying. So they make those connections, and Modi has learned that idiom to make those connections between what the Congress says and the apprehensions of people. And I agree with Dilip ji that the Revanna issue is not dead. It is actually, today again, it's taken a new turn in Karnataka, where D.K. Shivkumar has been brought into the picture, because the lawyer who handed it over to whatever he has quoted, he has said it was given to D.K. Shivkumar. So the questions that the BJP is posing today, yesterday they were on the back foot. Today they've gone on the front foot, and they're saying you knew about it for 3 months. You were waiting for elections to come, and you're using it during 3 days before the elections. And also, Barkha, there's another point. See, when you speak of Prajwal Revanna or Neha Hiremat, the girl who was stabbed to death by a Muslim boy, which is a more polarizing issue in Karnataka. And I think the Prajwal Revanna issue has been brought to as some kind of a counterbalance. And another factual thing is, who gave the number 3,000 videos? It's still a question. The investigating officer has not spoken. The lawyers have not spoken. The government spokespersons have not spoken. So who planted the idea of 3,000 videos is a big question. Anyway, all of that will come out. But he has to be punished. He has to, it's beyond what you said is a political issue. It is shamelessness. But there is also something that Modi ji is trying to connect. He is trying to say that, look, dynasts develop this kind of entitlement. Dynasts become arrogant. Dynasts, play around with their money, and they think they can exploit people. Actually, that narrative is working for Modi more than it is working for the BJP. There is an implied kind of a thing which is working against the BJP. So the moment he says that dynast does this, Deve Gowda's party is too small for Modi to be worried about. It is just 3 seats. But then what happens to the larger dynastic argument? So these are some of the bigger issues. And, Revanna or Neha Hiremat, they all get converted into larger community identities when inside the polling booth. When we look at the pan-India thing, we just pick the argument and narrative, Barkha. But people, when they vote, They connect it with their religion, they connect it with their caste, they connect it with their, courtyard and backyard and front yard, and they make different kinds of connections. It's a very complex thing how people decide to vote for